Okay. Good evening. Everybody have their name tags? Let's put that in if you don't. Take another sheet and we'll start. Okay, so today is Wednesday. Let's see if I can get darker markers. This is much better. It's Wednesday, February 21st, 2018. And what are we going to cover today? We're going to be covering data, database management systems, we're going to be talking about data warehouse, data marts, what we call big data, and its analytics, and we'll talk about the differences between database management systems versus blockchain. We plan to have 3 speakers tonight too that are coming in, basically those that are dealing with blockchain and implementations of that. We'll have one gentleman, he's coming from New York to, see how lucky we are? He's coming from New York and his company is called nationpay.io, and he has another startup that he's trying to revamp and use blockchains for banking. So he's trying to get banks, and so he's down here in South Florida. And he was supposed to be, I convinced him to stay a little bit to talk with you. We have another company that is doing blockchain development work, and they're based here in Coral Gables. They're called 8Base. They're based in Coral Gables, and a lot of their development team is in Russia. But they're based here, and they have founding from some angel investors and some people that have been doing healthcare down here. And then we have someone else that is trying to set up a website and a whole infrastructure to rate different ICOs and currencies, and they are based in Russia. His English isn't that great, so I figured the other Russian, whose English is much better, I got them together so he can kind of like be their translator. So it's kind of like, you can see how it's kind of like teamed, and it's interesting that you can see that this is kind of like the new technology. So I wanted to get us into the databases, and all of a sudden you think blockchain is also data, right? So what's the difference between the blockchain and this database? So we're going to work on that together. Any questions before I begin? Anything that we need to do? Next week, I'm going to devote the majority of the time for a review for the exam. So everybody will not be surprised. I won't have any issues on, I may not know all the answers, but it won't be, I looked at that exam, I had no idea she was going to ask me that.
Is it multiple choice?
It's going to be 2 parts. It's going to be multiple choice like the quizzes. I'll show you. I'm going to try to put online also additional questions for practice questions for you. And also the second part will be open-ended. And it will be topics that I'll go over the possible questions for it, but you can rest assured it will be things like on blockchain. You remember the articles that I had you read about blockchain? And another one will be on the automated trading systems that we did. But I'll go over those questions with you for next week. But what I would like you to do for next week especially is to review those materials. I'm going to give another quiz today, but review all that material, and those that you have questions for, bring it up to me and say, you know, this is an area that I don't understand, or we can do it so you can kind of do a review sheet of these are topics that I'm not quite sure about, or I'm fuzzy on this. Can you explain it to me? Right? And then some things that you bring up, I said, don't worry about it, or this is what you need to know. Okay, does that answer your question? Good. Okay, so let's begin here. I'm broadcasting you can go. I'm having some issues here. There's always issues, right? If there's never a class, if there's never an issue. I'm broadcasting this. The link is in steamit.com. Where? At the cycle. PSYCHCO. Later on, when we're thinking about your projects, what I want you to think about is one of your projects can be on blockchain and applications to blockchain. Some of the ideas that you have, you can review what's available there. You can propose, like some of these other companies, what you think you want to do in the future, or you can do those of you that are interested in more the strategies and automated trading systems, you can take that as a project and expand upon that. Look at different strategies, import. I showed you right before how to import additional strategies. You can do that for your project. But I want all of your projects, I'll work on it more next week, but think about what do you want to do as, and you may want to even divide up your group, because there may be two ideas in the group of what you would like to pursue in terms of technology to learn more about and to demonstrate. My whole idea is think about it as a demo lab, as areas in which demonstrations of what doesn't work too. That we can look at it as we can be unbiased. Nobody's paying us for, sometimes you see reviews, right? The vendor is paying for it or it's biased in the vendor, that you can review that as well. So a lot of the things that you can look at. Okay, so let me go into, so this is, right now, this is today the blockchain and the crypto, and you can see already that these, I put in the links here that you can already stream on the links, and they'll put in additional ones, these additional views I'll put in later. So let me go to courses. I'll go to our regular section, which is KY, right? BTE, KY. And in our original one, I'm going to go to assignments. And you should have then Chapter 1, TG, which is the Tech Guide 1, the hardware. You should have the security of Chapter 4. The TG2A, which is Tech Guide 2, the software, and Chapter 5. I'm going to add one more, which is the cloud. So for next week, I'm going to edit the test options. And we've talked about the cloud, but it's important that we discuss it further. So I'm going to make this link available. I'll give 2 rather than 1. Is that okay, attempts? And I'm going to submit, and what do you have to check? Is it there for you? Perfect. Okay, so we are working as a team. We got that back. Who is Josette? We'll end a bit earlier, and I'll work with you. in terms of what were the issues, that you had some issues, right, in your group?
Yeah. I posted all of the photos.
Okay, so we'll work with it, okay? It shouldn't take us,
And I just didn't do it once and then give.
I know, but that's the whole idea. What do I give credit for? That you tried it, you documented, there's issues, and now how do we resolve those issues? So that's what you need to do. You have to come prepared with trying that, attempting it, and that's always gonna be. When we deal with technology, when we're doing with these new things, we're never gonna be assured that it's always gonna work, but then we can work with others as well. So remind me, don't leave without me resolving your problem, okay? That's my job, I'm in everybody's group. So if I haven't done my job, right, I wanna be responsible, okay? So let's do that. So we have the assignments, we've done that. Let me go to the web links. Let's see if I have it here. And let's go on the web links, right? You should have already, right, looked at the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain for business. What is blockchain? The most disruptive tech in decades, right? And then you have the NinjaTrader strategies for importing, right? And then there's another one, click on that last one, which is blockchain technology, a very special kind of distributed database. And what do I want to do? I want to also go to the book. So we should have the book there, and let me sign in on the book. And you have the PowerPoints for this as well, right? Right, and then we'll, this is about data, and we'll talk about data. And open up that link too. You see that in the web links? Did everybody see that in the web links? That I talked about before I go on. So this is on my blockchain, and this was a very special one. And remind me, we'll go over this article as well. But before we go over this article, which says blockchain technology, a very special kind of distributed database, we have to understand what a database is. Everybody agree with me? So let's start together. So is there an eraser here? I guess so, huh? So I have an eraser. I'm ready to go. So everybody understands the concepts that we have? I'm going to start. So let's, first of all, before we get to even a database, let's think about data. We know that we're inundated with data. We do not have a lack of data. Everybody agree with me? There's data everywhere. When we even talk about, when we did our automated trading system example, where did we get the data from? Data feeds. Where's the data from? Stock data. Where can you get stock data from? Tell me what databases you can get stock data from.
It's from Google, from typing in on Google.
Type in Google, Yahoo Finance. You saw that we got it from where did we get our data feed from? Kinetic, right? End of day data. You can get it from a number of different data sources, right? So you can get data. The problem is to analyze that data to make better business decisions, right? All I want to do in business is do what? I want to either increase my sales or decrease my cost and increase my profits. That's what I want to do. If I'm winning, I'm okay, right? If I'm losing, it depends on, I'm going to have some limits of how much I'm going to be losing, right? So this is an area in which I want data. But let's think about let's think about an example that we all know about. Not everybody knows about stocks, right, Josette? That's kind of new to you. But what do you know about? A university, right? You know about a university. And what data do you know about? And in university, you know your data, right? So let's think, where in the university do they have your data?
Admissions.
Okay, so admissions is one. Who else? Josette, you're on a roll.
The school you're in,
Okay, so what school are you in?
business school.
Okay, so we'll just say business school. Okay, BS. I didn't mean it that way, right? But we're saying BS. Okay, business school. Okay, what else? Those the only two? The health center. Who else? That's your data.
GPA.
Huh?
GPA?
What?
GPA?
GPA? But who has that GPA? What division in the university has that? Maybe the School of Business does. What else? Who else? The registrar, right? That gets your degree. Who else has data about you? Anybody live on campus?
The housing.
Housing. Who else? Anybody have, right, my advisor? Who else? Anybody else have my advisor? Who else? What else? Anybody belong to
Organization.
organizations, right? What else? The library, what else? On campus. Admissions, I got admissions, I got registrar, I got housing, I have the health center, I may have the wellness center, right? I may be in a sports team, right? That have it. I don't have any more board space, so we're gonna leave it at that. Okay, so let's think about admissions. Josette, what information do they have? What data do they have?
They have your transcript from high school.
Okay, but even before that, what do they have? How do they, yeah, before your transcript, what do they need in terms of data?
Your name,
Okay, and in the name, how is the name done? They have first name, right?
last name,
Last name. So I have last, what else? I have address, I have city, I have state, right? And then when I have zip, right? And then what do I have? I have date of birth. What else?
Social security.
I have a social security if you have one. Then I have a student ID, right, that they gave me, right?
email they gave you.
Email they gave me. And then in admissions, they probably had then some things about my transcript, right? So I have in terms of the school I had, they may have in admissions, right, my GPA here from my past, right? They may have some courses, right? I'm just gonna put it here. Okay, the BS, the business school, right? What do they have? They have my first, they have my last, all of this, I'm gonna call it demographics, right? What do they have unique? They have what department I'm in, right? What else do they have? Here probably I have to have gender too, maybe male, female. Sometimes they may have, right? I may have gender. What else may I have? I may have, in terms of race, right? Whether you're Hispanic, African American, sometimes they have information there. I have department, what else? In terms of business, they may have my GPA, they may have, my name of my advisor,
Courses.
right, my courses that I'm taking and so forth. Health center, right, they're gonna have all of this, right? And then what else are they gonna have? They're gonna have my vaccines, right? They're gonna have all my medical information, all my diseases and so forth. The registrar, I have my demographics. And then my registrar will have my current GPAs here. It could have my degrees. Housing, you know it's gonna be the same in demographics, right? And what's it gonna be unique there? The dorm I'm living in, it may be any restrictions I have with different diet, let's say, and it may have what, my roommate, my advisor, and then it may have what's unique about the advisor, it may have then my major here. Anybody see any redundancy? Did I make my point, Uday? You see how some data. So let's say, Uday, where are you living now, in general? Where are you living? On campus, off campus? Huh?
On campus.
on campus. And let's say later on you want to move off campus, right? You'd like to have a big house and a pool and have big parties there rather than being restricted. So he moved, and let's say he moved to Fisher Island. Anybody been to Fisher Island? Right? So he moved to Fisher Island. It's nice. He has to take a boat back and forth, but he's used to it, right? And if he moves and he changes addresses, where does the address have to change? In one place? Uday.
No, all of them.
All of them. And what's the problem with that, you think?
It's hard.
Huh?
It's hard to do that
Why is it hard?
because you have to change a bunch of things.
But let's just think about it. Let's say it's not so hard, right? You give me the address and there's going to be one data file here I'm going to change, one data file here. Let's be more articulate rather than hard. So what do you think, Nico? What's the problem with him? Uday, you're going to be in charge of all this. You're the big IT director, right? And you're going to have to change his address. What's the problem with him submitting his address? Uday doesn't even know where all his data is, so you can say, Uday, why don't you change it, right?
What do you mean, when he changes address?
Yeah, when he changes the address, what's the disadvantage of having his change of address in the system? What can happen? Tommy, what can happen?
Perhaps since I'm guessing they recognize more people that live on campus. I mean, they have either like Mahoney, Pearson, and stuff.
Yeah, but if he changes address, do you think everybody's going to type it incorrectly, Uday?
No.
There's a chance there may be a mistake. Is there a chance that one of the files won't be updated? Has anybody ever had that where you change and then somehow somebody sends it to the wrong address because it hasn't been updated? So you understand the area. So this is a regular data file system where it has a lot of data redundancy. And let's say there's a sports team. Anybody on a sports team here at all? But let's say there's a sports team, right? And then let's say there's tennis or something, the tennis team, and then we have all these information. And let's say somebody comes to me and say, you know what, I want to make a query. What's a query? It's asking a question. I want to make a query and find out a scholarship is available for a Hispanic that's a business school major and is also on a sports team that has a GPA greater than 3.5. And is a business school major. Where do I have to go? I may not even know where to go because it's in a number of different databases. So what a database management system is a way to manage my data to be able to answer what we call queries. Or we can query or ask questions. And I can ask those questions where I put the data in a centralized place called a database. And then I can have different departments query that database. So what's the advantage of this? So if I need an address change, Uday, where would you, how many times would you have to update that?
4 times.
If all of my data is centralized, how many times would I have to update it?
One time.
One time.
Yeah.
So the advantage is what, Uday? The advantage is that I have my data in one spot, and then when I make changes to that data, it becomes more efficient and I don't have to worry about the other places. What's the disadvantage? Phil, what's the disadvantage to that? All my data's in one place.
Could be more
One is it's successful because I know now where all my data is. Remember even we talked about that crypto kind of things where they went to that one server and was able to hack it. So I can hack that database. You remember Equifax? Did we talk about Equifax here? Let's do some work. Work together with Isabel. Ooh, type in Equifax. Equifax hack.
The crisis.
Expose a lot of personal information.
Social Security.
And what happened in that one? Did you find it?
They had a crisis management program.
Yeah, but what happened? If I Google,
They created, like you could create an account to see if your Social Security was.
Equifax. Did I do it? Equifax? Equifax hack. What we learned, right? It may be worse than consumers knew, right? Driver's license, credit card, the Equifax is way worse than consumer knew. The data breach exposed more personal information than first disclosed that year. How many did it do? Personal information of 145 million consumers. How did that happen? What are they? What is Equifax? Equifax is a credit rating agency. So basically it holds all the information that credit card companies have on you. And what happened is somebody went in and grabbed all that data. How did it happen? By what they call an exploit. You'll need to know this for the exam. So there was a threat from the outside, supposedly. There was an exploit that we had some kind of vulnerability. And what happened in the vulnerability is there was an OS patch that needed to be installed. And what does OS stand for? What's OS?
Operating system.
Operating system. So this was on an operating system, and what happens is they find operating systems, find that they're vulnerable, and what they do is they say, we're vulnerable, so we're going to send out a patch, we're going to send out a correction, some software correction, that we can harden the infrastructure. So basically, it's as if we say, we have an open window there, and now I'm going to tell you, hey, I got you a lock here for this open window, because people can come in through this open window. They had consultants that told them, on this server, on this computer, you are vulnerable to attacks. But you can solve that by installing this software. They were told in January. So was it done correctly, you think, Madeline?
No.
Or else 145 million person. So somebody told them to do it. It's almost, and I hate to even make that analogy, but everybody heard that horrible thing in Parkland, right? Happened with in the high school where they said somebody sent in a call to the FBI, and what happened to that call, nobody knows. It kind of just sat there, or somehow it broke down in the systems. So it's even, in a way, this hack then, or this exploit was not done by this OS patch. And what ended up happening in the OS patch was this was a publicly traded company. The publicly traded company, they were aware of it. The patch was announced in January. In June, the board sold their stock. In, I think it was around August, they announced to the public that they were hacked. So do you think there's a coincidence that they sold their stock in June? What do you think happened, Phil?
They realized and sold their stock.
They stole their stock. Is that legal? No, they say that they had to buy, just a coincidence, they had to buy houses and things like that, right? But that was part of the problem too. So they didn't tell the consumer, and then they announced publicly in August or a couple months later that they were hacked. And then they, repaired it. So they repaired it too late. So this is the idea of what we talk about is a centralized database system. So what you need is what they call data governance. You can put that in your notes here. Basically, data governance is assigning who is responsible for the data. You have owners of the data. So in data governance, for instance, you need to follow up, just like we were doing before, Josette, when I said, I put in NinjaTrader in the lab, right? We needed to follow up, right, and see, even though it was installed, right, everybody saw that it was installed, but no one went in the next step and says, does it work? So basically in data governance is you have to make sure that the procedures are done not only to be responsible for your data, but to make sure that your data is done correctly. So this is an area where you have what they call master database management. So what the database approach is, it started with, were like those single files that I showed you. Admissions has a file, registrar has a file. That's called a data file. So a data file is a collection of logically related records. And what's a record? In a file, basically what you have is you can think about it, each row is equal to a record. So if I have my class file, each student is going to be a record in my file. And what was traditionally, this was in the study, database management systems, the data file. What did we find out in a data file? What were the characteristics of just data files by themselves is what we call data redundancy. And we saw that already, right, Uday? I saw that in the way that what? Your address may have been listed 30 times across the university. Data inconsistency, we talked about it too, Uday, which was what? You make a change to the data, it may not be the same. Data isolation means if I want to find, for instance, certain people for scholarships, I may have just have isolated information that I can't get to and I can't query. So what we have here is database management systems, and we call it DBMS, database management systems, allows us to maximize these issues. And when we talked about it, we talked about, if I ask you what is database management system, what is its weakness? Is its security. So we know we have to have backups, and we know that we have to harden it, I call it harden, or secure it, to make sure that I can rely on data integrity. Now Vincent, what's data integrity?
I guess how reliable your data is.
Yeah. Right? If we're dealing with stocks, Vinny, and then we end up saying, can I rely on this closing price? If I can't rely on this closing price, I can't, it's useless to me. So I want to make sure that I have this data integrity. So these are areas we've talked about it. And then they talk about the data hierarchy. The data hierarchy means basically from top to bottom, really how data is put into a computer. The smallest amount is what we call a byte. And what is a byte? Smallest amount is really a bit. That's right, like an off and on switch. So if I look at Luca and I want to have a byte, how many bytes are in the name Luca? 4. L-U-C-A. I have 4 bytes. This is a character. And the field would be first name Luca, right? And the record would be your entire thing of Luca, your first name, your last name. And if it were my file, right, it would be test 1, test 2, project, your grades, right, the final grades and so forth. And all of my students together make up a file. So I have the student files, I can have faculties, I can have database managements, different ones for the entire place. Then they talk about something called relational database models. And they talk a lot, but this is what a relational database model is. Everybody know a spreadsheet? A relational database model is like a table. So you can put in your notes here, when they talk about relational databases, it's like tables. And what is a table? A row is called a record, and a column is called a field. So you have records, are rows that I said, right? And fields are columns. No big shakes. And what you'll be able to do in tables is in tables, when you're going to be looking at it, you're going to be just looking for each table. You'll have different tables that you'll relate to having. So you can have relationships between tables, and then you can have keys, for instance, to find information. So for instance, the primary key. A primary key then is something that is unique to a student. So give me an example then for your student file, what's going to be the primary key? What's going to be unique to you? It's not going to be like Julio Gonzalez maybe here, right?
The ID.
Which ID?
C number.
Your C number. So why don't they use social security number? One, what else? Does everybody have does everybody have a social security number? It's for the United States, right? So not everybody has it. So they're making something unique, and also they want to make it something that we have here secure. So in this case, that primary key can be unique. The secondary key, it does not have to identify its information, but does not have to identify complete accuracy. And usually what we have is what we call structured data, meaning that my data is well defined by my fields. I can find that information easily and I can decipher it. And the common programming language for structured data is called SQL, standing for structured. What's the Q for? What did I say you want to do? Ask questions to a database. What did I say it was called?
Query.
Query. Wow, what a class. And I said it with some kind of language, so what's L stand for?
Language.
Oh, wow. Hopefully an exam, huh? And what is, right, language? What does the L stand for? In language. Okay, so this is structured query language, but who cares? It's basically saying it's a language that is quite old, and it was from really a number of years old, but it's basically give me all those students that have GPAs greater than 3.5 and are finance majors. And finance majors or entrepreneurship majors. That's the query. And one of the most, where do you think they use database management systems that you use online? Probably the most popular online is called MySQL. Look it up. What do we got? Anybody find it? What do we find? Zach, what do we find?
It says it's an open source relational database management system.
Okay, so we start with that. Open source means what? So he says it's an open source. What does an open source mean? Open source means what? Besides free. A lot of things are free.
Like
The
anyone-
air is free, you know what I mean?
Anyone can access
Anyone that can access it, they can see access what?
the data.
The code, right? The programming code. Open source means that it's programming code, so it means that some ways if you want to modify it, you can modify it. If you have programmers that know, they can modify it. Okay? So where do they use database management systems? Anybody shop online? Right? Anybody shop, let's say Amazon, right? What do you think they have a database management system? Right, they do. What do they need to do? What kind of information, Madeline, do they have on your database about you in their database management system?
What you've bought and what you've looked at.
Right, they keep track of a lot of things in their data. First of all, they have your name, they have your address, they even have what else do they have? Credit card information, right? Then they have a history of what you have. Then based on that history, a lot of times they give recommendations. How do they get that? Based on their database management systems, they can do correlations. People that buy similar things, you can buy this, they can make recommendations. All of that is done on a database management system similar to a MySQL. That's what they need on the back end. So anybody of you that want to be entrepreneurs and I say, hey, I want to do some apps or I want to do something, is a lot of times if you want to collect that data about your customer, which you usually do, right, and you want to keep track of it, you need some kind of database management system. And a lot of times they call it the back end. Because in that way, that database management, and then they can do queries. You can do queries on it yourself, right? Find me all the history, but what do they really want to do is they want to get queries on you, right? Think about Google. All the thing is, think about all those places that think about Facebook. How much does Facebook cost you? Nothing. How much does Twitter cost? Nothing. How much does my Google searches cost? Nothing. But what are they making their money on? They're making that money based on your data on how you're experiencing, right? What are you searching for to be able to give you that back? Based on search engine acquisitions and so forth. So this is basically what we've talked about. And one more thing that I want to stress to you is we have something called unstructured data. Structured, do you remember, Nico, I said was what? Something like first name, last name, the address, your GPA, or in Amazon, what the books that you bought, right? The prices, the ISBN number, whatever. Unstructured is what?
The opposite.
We have to be a little articulate than that, but it is. Un means opposite, but it's basically things that it's not so easy to grab hold of. And think about, what do we have now a lot of on the internet? It's video, right? So if I want to find exactly somebody's face, right, I start having to do it. It's a little bit harder. I can do it. It's starting to be like I can tag faces and so forth, but I want to find you everywhere. I want to find information about you, whether you're sad, whether you're eager, right, whether you're male, female, whether in this case, how old you are, based on almost like facial recognition. That's all going to be unstructured. Video, finding videos, right, exactly, that's going to be unstructured. So these are areas that you can do. Now one area, anybody is doing data analytics as a major? This is a big area, because in big data is basically forecasting. Just like we were doing in terms of the automated trading system, forecasting what's going to be in the future. Think about marketing now is all big data. It's no longer just my ideas, it's basically tracking, trying to figure out what are going to be the next trends, trying to do what? To find those people and to sell you more, or to sell you something that I want. Not just to spam you on things that you don't want, but basically if I know what you can do, I can do that. So what they call is big data is the idea of finding it is that it includes structured and unstructured data, and it doesn't fit exactly those relational databases. And many times with big data, we have something called data mining. And anybody here AI? What's AI stand for?
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. Those are the two big areas, right? And what does that mean? It means that I'm trying to find patterns in my data that either I wasn't aware of, or there's so much data there that I can't comprehend that. They're doing it in medicine in what? Like the genome projects, trying to do personalized medicine, trying to find exactly areas in which I can give you a different, if you both have, God forbid, if you both have cancer, I can treat you differently than I can treat Gabrielle. And why is that? It may be from your genome, from your genetic makeup, I can see that you have this kind of mutation and you have another. Or you're from, I may see that Hispanics are more inclined to get this disease versus another. So I'm able to do this data mining to find patterns. And I can, in this data mining, I can do something called supervised versus unsupervised. Supervised means that I tell the computer what hypothesis I have and which attributes to look at. Anybody ever get a call from a credit card company saying they think there's fraud in your account or something suspicious? They're using this data mining. What are they doing? They're looking at what? When did you get a call? Did you ever get a call, Madeline? And what was the reason?
Suspicious activity.
Because it's what? Something that you haven't done usual, right? That pattern. And what do they have? They basically do it partly unsupervised, saying these are transactions that were fraudulent. These are transactions that are good. Let computer find me those patterns. What makes a fraudulent transaction? Many times, for instance, we go to a gas station and do very little amount, that's like a flag. Why? Because somebody steals a credit card, right? There's nobody there at the pump. You can go, pump and dump, you can go. Or there may be, one time I got it where it said on my credit card statement, it said RU. Anybody know what RU is? Rubles. right? I wasn't in Russia lately, you know what I mean? So I didn't buy that. That was a flag. As soon as I said, you know, I see rubles, they should have picked it up. I had to call the credit card company and tell them, I see RU. They shut my card down in a second. You know, they didn't ask any more. So you can see that they do that data mining, and now in artificial intelligence and in fintech, right, it's basically looking at those predictions and basically trying to find the patterns. So the big buzzword is if you want money and you're a startup, besides saying blockchain and crypto, one of the big things is to say, I'm going to be using AI intelligence that I can have the computer do things that a human being will be more difficult to do. But you need humans to write the rules. Okay? So these are defining the characteristics of big data. You can issue basically big data is dirty. What that means is that the data is incomplete. I don't have the right, I don't have all my data available to me. A lot of times people spend more time on that than anything else. And there's something called Hadoop. Anybody hear about that? You'll hear about it tonight. H-A-D-O-O-P. And what am I asking you to do, Gabrielle? It's not just sit there. Right. And what did you find? What did you find? Let's go. Manuel, what did you find? Hadoop. H-A-D-O-O-P. What is your major? Accounting? This is going to be really big because what do they want? In accounting data, what are they going to be doing? Now they're going to be auditing and they're going to be looking for fraud. So basically I'm going to be looking for fraud in my ways. So who found Hadoop?
It's on Apache Hadoop.
Right?
Yeah, it's an open source software framework used for distributed storage and processing databases of big data.
Right. Open. Now when you read it, doesn't it start making, you see the commonalities of that, where before, who the heck? It's usually open source, right? Meaning that a number of people in the community can make changes to it and improve it. And then what did they say? Distributed databases for big.
Processing of data sets of big data.
So Excel wouldn't do it. Think about Excel on super steroids, right? To be able to process my data. So I'm going to have it large data, so I'm going to have it unstructured data. I may have it in videos, I may have it in two ways. So those traditional relational databases won't do the trick as well, so they're using these things called Hadoop. Okay, so you can read through this, but I just wanted to show you, did that help? There's so many terms here, that it's basically, if I think about it, Isabel, it's basically using data and how do I get answers to my problem to be able to make better decisions. That's the whole area, and that's going to be prevalent anywhere that we're going to use in technology. And then let's look at the link. Did you remember I told you let's look at this link on blockchain technology then? Blockchain technologies is this person says, some people still ask me when to use distributed ledgers rather than standard distributed databases. So let me tell you what a distributed database is. Remember when I showed you that one example where I had the database Uday in one place? Right? Remember this one? And what did we say was the problem having in one place? It was more vulnerable, right, Uday? So what people are doing now, and let's say we were in Miami, and it's hurricane season, right? What's going to happen to my computer systems possibly? It can go down, the electricity can go down, I have a problem there, so I want to do a distributed database. So if I want to do a distributed database, I can have what they call a set, I have my distributed versus central. We talked about what a centralized database is, right? That I have in one central place. My distributed database is going to be across. I'm going to take my data Uday, and will I just put it in Florida? I'll put it in California, I may put it in Europe, I may put it in Asia. I can have it. Do you think Google has its data all in one place? No way. Amazon, no way. They have farms in different places. That's what they call distributed databases. And when we talked about peer-to-peer distributed SQL. You remember I talked about the distributed, they're warehouses, data warehouses that do it. Basically what data warehouses are, they're a place where data is stored, and I use it, you can put that in your notes. A data warehouse is a place where I don't have my current transactional data. A data warehouse is where I do not have my current transactional data, but it's a place where I store my non-operational data to basically do studies on. To do like data mining studies, to do AI studies, so I can use my data that it's not going to interfere with my day-to-day operations. And then they talk about Hadoop that you guys know, and there's something called NoSQL that means not only structured. You remember, Nico, that we talked about non-structured? You'll hear now people are using NoSQL. Don't worry about this. And distributed ledgers. And I'd like you to read through this, and next week come back to me and ask me questions of what you don't understand about this article. Because you can see here they start talking about Ethereum, which is another cryptocurrency, right? And they talk about distributed ledgers and ledgers here. So this gives you right here is an excellent chart. You can see it, you have the link, right? Where's the link? Where's this link? Josette, where's this link?
Links.
Huh? On links at where? At the very end, right? At the very end, and you can see here a centralized database management systems. You can see here we use the thing of SQL, MySQL. Microsoft has one, IBM has one, Oracle has one, and then I have in distributed data managements here, they're not all attached to a common CPU. And what's a CPU? Phil?
Central process.
So it's a unit, right? But they're spread across a network. Does that make sense? That instead of having in one place, does it make sense that it be more, right? You were talking about vulnerabilities, right? If I'm going to be talking about it, I'm going to be across those. And then you can see here the Hadoop, I have a distributed warehouse, and here is where I have another place of the data. You can think about that blockchain is another place where I have my data. And that's my distributed ledger, where it's going to be, the difference here, it's going to be decentralized. Hi, are you here? You can come in. You can come in. You guys, hi, come on in.
Hi guys.
Hi, great.
Oh,
So-
you still having something?
Yeah, but you can come in. Come on in. Hi. Did you guys meet each other?
We
Later?
had a call yesterday.
Okay, great. Hi. Come in. Take a seat. We got a whole crew here. Wow. We have more coming, or this is it? So, we gave an overview. First of all, I thank you for all coming, huh? Pretty nice. We got a whole team here working, right? I wanted you, this is our class, and we were just kind of talking about, you can see here what we were trying to do is the way in which, these are mainly business students, and we're kind of talking about database management system and seeing the differences between what is the whole idea of a distributed ledger, how does that compare to other database management systems. And what I wanted from you folks to do is I want to do like around with all of you, I want you to introduce yourselves and kind of give an overview of what problem you're trying to solve and make it a conversation of what we're going to do. And Andre, I wanted to start with you, that we can do it in terms of 8-base. I know you're founder with Albert, and you can kind of, I can go to your website if you want, and we can.
I can plug in like a presentation if you want.
Okay, or we can just even go through. I can go to your.
Whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever I think is best.
Yeah, I think let's go to your introduce. What's your website?
8base.com.
Okay, everybody can go into it. Okay, so it's 8base.com. right?
Yep.
And then you can introduce yourself, and it just basically, this is a great class, right? We've got people from all over the world and also different majors in terms, we have computer science in the front row, and then we have, what do we have, finance, what else do we have? Entrepreneurship, we have accounting, what else? Marketing, economics, so we have kind of like a group, and we're
Yeah.
kind of learning through
I
that.
guess to make it a little bit more useful, you can
Yeah.
scroll down.
Okay, and then
Um,
introduce yourself.
Like, okay,
Okay.
this is good, this is fine.
Okay,
Okay, hi guys, my name is Andrei Anisimov. I'm a VP of technology of a local company called 8base.
okay.
We just started it about less than a year ago, so we're still developing the system, but basically the problem we're trying to solve is how do you enable non-technical people to build enterprise applications? So who knows what enterprise application is? Like, does anyone know what it means? I mean, you obviously know like apps, mobile apps, and stuff like that. So enterprise application is, let's say you go to like a DMV or you go to like whatever business, and there is a lady and she has a computer in front of her and she typing something in it. So most likely she's using an enterprise application. It's basically an application that allows businesses to automate the stuff, store the data, store the customers, interact with customers, let customers schedule something like when you go to MindBody and you want to schedule like a class, you interact with their enterprise system. So right now, building enterprise software is very costly. You basically have to hire a team of developers, and they are very expensive if they're good. If they are expensive, doesn't mean they're good. By the way, it's all like I started my business. I had previously, before this company, I had a enterprise software development business where I developed a bunch of software for casino industry here in the US. So like casinos like MGM Grand and others in Vegas, they run the software that we developed. And basically this whole industry looks kind of like this. There is like a big fancy company here in the US. It gets the contract, it then sends contract to some big fancy company in Russia. In Russia, they send it to some smaller company, and then smaller company sends to some dude who is a student, or like he works somewhere and he does it like after work. You know, it's a real scenario that I experienced and witnessed. So what we're building is we're building a system that allows non-technical people to kind of go in, register, and start building enterprise application, because enterprise application is essentially bunch of like standard features like user management, login, all the features that we all know like very well. It should be able to send emails, it should be able to log you in, register, etc. And then on top of it, there is something custom to the business. Like, let's say if it's a logistics, if it's a FedEx, they need to track shipments, they need to track packages. If it's like a casino, they track their slot machines, the chips, whatever. And so we basically kind of abstract in a way and implementing all the functionality that has to do with standard things like login, etc. And we let users to use kind of drag and drop tools to set up the custom logic that's specific to their business.
So, an application, give me an example of someone what kind of application?
I mean,
So like a car rental company, what are you thinking about? Are you looking at basically a large enterprise, a medium enterprise, a small business?
It can kind of, like, we have our strategy that kind of starts from the smaller and then goes up.
So give me an example of the smaller.
So the most common example right now of such software is CRM.
Okay, customer relationship
management system. Salesforce is the top vendor, the top company that builds this type of software.
Right.
But it allows you to manage all your customers. If you're like a sales team, that's where you put all your leads, your customers, etc.
Right.
But there is tons of other systems, like custom, for example, the systems that I built a system for an airport that allows basically airlines submit monthly reports, how many like passengers they had, all kinds of data, and then the system automatically calculates how much money they owe to the airport.
Okay. Very specific application.
And before this system, they had to basically manually email each other this data, like some lady in the office puts it in Excel, and it's all very manual and
Okay.
error prone.
Okay, so you write the integrated software system?
Yeah.
Okay, so you wanna have a tool then to be able to do
Yeah, so
that?
the main problem right now is that there are all these like SaaS solutions, basically.
Software as a service?
Software as a service it's already, somebody already built like Salesforce. Salesforce is
Right.
number one SaaS. But
Right.
then there is tons of other like MailChimp, if you need to send
Right.
some kind of email newsletters, you go to MailChimp. But the problem is that only, like, in order to build a SaaS solution around certain niche, the niche should be, large enough so that you can make enough money to turn it into real business. But there is tons of niches that are too small or too specific, like something very unique to this type of business that nobody really gonna build a specific solution for them. So now they have to go and hire custom developers.
Okay.
And it's just the
So
problem.
you wanna, so the problem is in the problem of having a custom development environment, you're trying to reduce the cost of that, and you're also trying to have, and who would actually use this? So for instance, a finance or an accountant, the accountant in the company would design the system?
Yeah, so we call it, we invented the terminology for this, shadow IT, we call it. It's basically, it's a guy sitting in, let's say, finance department.
Right.
And they really want to, build some model to help them, better make decisions, something like that. And they go to their IT department, and there's like grumpy programmers, they're like, no, we have a backlog,
I can't
come
do
back
it.
in 2
Right,
years,
right.
we are busy. So the dude comes back to his office and he opens Excel and he starts kind of hacking together some thing
Right,
to
and you
help
write
them.
some VBA,
So that's our
Visual Basic for, okay. So
So-
so you're gonna create that, and that customer is gonna design the software and do the software?
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to be a programmer, is that
He
your
doesn't,
idea?
he doesn't need to be a programmer, but the interesting piece is this. So what we're talking about is this, tools for citizen developers. We
Okay.
call them citizen developers,
Okay.
people who are not technical, but they can still develop.
Okay,
The most interesting piece is that our platform is it's extensible, because obviously we don't have like resources to implement all possible features that businesses will ever need. Like somebody will need to send text messages, somebody need to like, I don't know, some Ethereum, some blockchain integration.
right,
And the problem, so basically the way we're solving it is we're opening it up to the global community of developers who can contribute new capabilities in the platform and make money from it. So let's say you can build like
so an open, almost like an open source, but in the open source that I'm gonna get paid for it?
yeah.
So you remember we kept on talking about open source, and traditionally the open source was, nobody was actually getting paid.
Yeah,
make
traditionally you do open source for like stars or, for kind of recognition. It helps
Right.
you get a better job, but it doesn't give you money like directly, right? So what we're enabling here is I can give you an example. Let's say
Okay.
you can build like a kick-ass face recognition algorithm.
Okay.
That will tell whether it's a woman or a
We
man.
were just talking about that, right?
Some kind of AI algorithm.
Right.
You can upload it there, and every time anybody in the system, whoever needs this algorithm, they can use it and they can pay you per transaction. So every time.
So it's almost like a web service, no?
Yeah, we call it App Store for microservices.
So it's like a microservice. Everybody understand that? So basically, if you create like a facial recognition, you'll put that on your system, and everybody that's gonna be using that, and it's gonna be tokenized? Is that what your idea
Yeah,
is?
and so,
So this is the blockchain kind of idea of this?
yeah, so the marketplace will be blockchain powered. It will run most likely on Ethereum blockchain, and all payments will happen in the cryptocurrency. So what cryptocurrency enables us, something that was hard to imagine before, is micropayments. Because the problem is like currently most services, they charge you per month, something like that. Like even if you use it once a month, you still have to pay the monthly fee. And because processing payments is expensive, so it has to be some kind of minimum threshold to be
Right,
processed.
I'm not gonna pay you a penny,
Yeah,
right, or
but
5
but
cents.
with cryptocurrencies, we can do it the way that you literally get paid pennies for every single request, and it allows the ultimate users to don't be conscious in terms of what services they use, because they know that if they use it heavily, they're gonna pay. If they don't use it, they're fine.
So what's the blockchain? It's not that necessarily if I'm an enterprise and I'm like a finance person, I want to get I'm not necessarily going to be doing the blockchain. It's just those people that contribute will be part of the blockchain?
Yeah, so you will still, as a citizen developer, you will still use the blockchain. I mean, the problem right now is that a lot of companies, they want to use blockchain.
Right.
They hear this fancy word, they
I
go to
know,
conference.
but they don't know what to do with it, right?
And they're like, oh wow, how do I use blockchain? And even if they know how to do it, the problem is that I had a really cool slide in my deck that basically had like, who is blockchain developer, and then it's a picture of a unicorn. It's basically like real blockchain guys, most likely they've been in the space for a while, they probably all Bitcoin millionaires, they don't want to work for anyone. They're fine. So for a company to find developers who understand blockchain and who can implement what they want to do is extremely hard, it's extremely expensive. So we let these guys develop kind of like connectors, integrations from different blockchains into our platform. And this enables these people to easily use any blockchain through very like kind of, you just configure it there.
So it's
in
almost like the
interface.
plumber, it's almost like that they used before in software development. They always talked about that I'm just gonna be using modules. It's not so simple, but I'm gonna pick and choose my modules.
It's, you know, I feel like, you know, if I were to end kind of this description,
Yeah.
so we were at the conference where I met you,
Yes,
and a guy approached me and he totally got the idea. He said, basically, you can think of electricity. So when electricity was just invented, electricity was a thing that only rich people could afford, and if you like super rich and you want to have electricity in your house, you call like a team of guys, they come, they install the generator right there, they install the wires, and they can screw it up, and then you have a fire or whatever. That's how it used to be. And then now we have a power grid, and you just plug in and it just works. So in the software, kind of the state of development of software right now is that rich guy hires the team. We're trying to build the grid.
so if I'm gonna use this, do I need to have if I'm an enterprise, or I'm a company, do I need to think about blockchain, or I just need to think about a solution, and then you'll add blockchain to me?
You still need to think about blockchain, because blockchain enables certain solutions that basically.
So, but does my solution need to be a blockchain-enabled solution? Because there's certain ways that blockchain works well. If I have a number of transactions, if I want, in terms of security.
It basically depends. Usually, blockchain complements traditional centralized
Okay.
system. Like for example, because right now, it's pretty expensive to store data in blockchain. So
Right.
you cannot use blockchain as a replacement for a database.
Right.
It's just gonna be extremely expensive. You're gonna pay millions of dollars.
Right.
But what usually people do is that they store the data in database, but then they create a hash of it. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar.
Tell them what a hash
I don't know.
Yeah, but then-
So
What?
basically, a hash code is like a fingerprint of the database itself. In some cases, you actually could store a database on blockchain, but it would be incredibly inefficient, at least with today's chains that exist that aren't that scalable, that don't allow micropayments and microtransactions, that aren't very fast. But the idea of a hash is that you have proof that what you have that exists actually exists. The idea in his scenario here is to have a hybrid between centralization and decentralization. We store certain services centrally, like you're accustomed to, as Sarah was probably just explaining to you guys before we walked in. But then the decentralized component is not only the proof that what you have actually exists, but the payment for the service that you're providing. So there's nodes that are centralized, and then there's a decentralized component that represents the interaction between the centralized nodes for payment of services. There are users of the services, and there are the people who are providing the services. In between them is blockchain that accounts for the payments and the proof of provision of the service.
Basically, the benefit of blockchain usually comes from immutability. Immutability is basically whatever you record there, nobody can erase it, nobody can change it. It's there forever. It's like set in stone. So it's cool when you can kind of store the actual data in traditional database, but then you make a fingerprint is very small. Like your data could be huge, it could be a whole movie or something like that,
Right.
but the fingerprint is just a little like piece of text, and then you store that in the blockchain, and then you can, every time you access this data, you can compare. Does it match? If somebody changed the data, the fingerprint will not match, and you're like, oh, the data is not authentic.
So it'll be,
that's-
so it'll be easier in terms of hacking. A lot of these people don't even know they've been hacked, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're gonna be developing what? So you're gonna need to get these developers, right? I'm gonna need to get clients, and you're developing what? You're developing the front, you as the
We're-
base.
We are developing the platform that makes it easy for these guys to contribute new capabilities, so that they don't have to worry about the hosting, setting up the infrastructure. They only focus on the code that actually does something, and we take care of the hosting, and we implement basically best practices of all common things that every application needs, such as user management, role-based security.
So you're gonna already have some of those services already built in?
Yeah, we just kind of the foundation of an enterprise application,
Uh-huh.
and we also build these tools for citizen developers, the visual tools that allow you to build the front end, the UI of your application without development, just by.
So it's almost like a WYSIWYG, it's what you see, they basically do. It's
It's-
almost like, in a way in which people now can create their own
It's mostly- we
websites
actually kind
without
of-
being a programmer.
We're kind of a little bit against this.
Yeah.
We don't think it works really well in terms of the blank canvas approach, where
Right.
you just like open blank canvas
Yeah,
and then
right.
you have to be a designer.
Right,
We do it the other way. We let them first model the data model. So we think that every business is kind of defined by the data schema, data model they have. Let's say they have customer table, they have orders, they have shipments, whatever. And once you define this data, we kind of reverse engineer the user interface, the screens from the data, and then let you customize them however you want. But you don't start with a blank canvas, and I think that's the pretty big innovation.
so I don't have to, and so you're gonna shorten that time, plus they're gonna be able to make their own rules, cause they know their business better than others,
Yeah.
and they don't have to waste their time talking to programmers about
Yeah,
it.
it's basically we're
We're
bringing
shortening
we're
that part.
bringing development closer to the requirements, because right now requirements here, and then developments could be in Ukraine,
Right.
and then you not only have to explain them what your business is about, you also have to translate it.
Right, and so I don't know that, okay. And what are you gonna be charging for this? Do you have a business model of how you're gonna charge?
We have preliminary tiers of
Right.
different users. It's gonna start with free. So
Right.
if you only have up to 3 users is free. And then let's say you have a very small company, you only have 2 or 3 employees, you're not gonna be paying anything. You're only gonna pay if you consume something from the third-party developers. And then it goes, I believe, something like $50 a month.
Okay, so you
per
can
user.
do it
So
as a
it's
service.
a freemium model.
Okay, and how far are you along on this?
So we started development in August. We're gonna release like a closed beta in March. And
And the
By
March will
June-
be for the citizens developer?
no.
It'll be,
So the March will only be this.
okay,
This is for developers. This is
Okay.
a backend as a service
okay,
product. And then in June, around June, July, we're gonna release the
The
entire.
right. And then in the middle? That part?
Yeah, somewhere around
Right,
the same time.
okay, great, and so what is how can these folks help you in any way, do you think? Are you
Well, I
look-
mean, we obviously always looking for engineering talent, for developers,
Mm-hmm,
for designers. Probably something with marketing, but I'm not a marketer, so I don't
right,
really know.
but your marketing team is gonna be here in Miami? You're in
Yes,
Coral-
so-
And you're in WeWork, right now?
We have two offices. Development office is in St. Petersburg, Russia, and here the headquarters is in Miami. We have design, product development, basically all business related
Right,
functions.
business development,
marketing.
raising funds,
Yeah.
right, you got those guys in marketing.
Yeah.
Okay, great, and then you're temporarily in you're at WeWork now?
Yeah. Right now we work on Ponce de Leon and
In Coral Gables,
Gables.
Okay.
Probably gonna stay there for a few months,
okay,
and then
great. Any questions? Anything, so everybody understand kind of his idea is basically trying to get into that blockchain and kind of merge the developer with the end user.
Yeah, just to kind of build a window for regular people to access all these hardcore
Okay.
technologies.
Very good. Okay, so can I have, very good, thank you. And Ken, I can go to your site, Ken, you wanna come up and just tell them
Sure.
and introduce yourself? It's Nation what? Nation Pay.
Is what we discussed on.
Yeah, but you guys can go to this one, it's called nationpay.io.
Yeah, so, hi
Introduce
everyone.
yourself too, yeah.
Yeah, sure. My name is Ken Silverman. I'm the CEO of NationPay, which is a banking platform and payments network. We had a chance to discuss this a little bit on Monday. I'll talk to you a little bit.
There's another class, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
I noticed everybody's new. To tell you a little bit about it again today, and then there's another platform I'd like to discuss with you a little bit that has similarities. Both of them are fairly similar. First of all, how familiar are you all with blockchain? Like, how have you? Is today like the first introduction to it, or no? Sarah's gotten you acclimated to it a little bit. So, the idea when you think about blockchain, the first thing most people think about is Bitcoin, which is also called blockchain 1.0, because it exists simply to act as a mechanism for transfer of value from one person to another. The decentralized component is also known as a trustless system because you no longer have to depend on a bank for storing the transactions and counting on them to actually prove that money went from one account to another. Does anyone know what blockchain 2.0 is? So 2.0 is what most people just call Ethereum. It's any blockchain like Bitcoin that instead of an address representing just a value store, it can also represent what's called a smart contract, a place that a piece of software exists that can express rules for value transfer. Not only rules for value transfer of the native token, which in this example is Ether, but rules for value transfer of a custom token that you can design in that same platform, in that same blockchain. And then the smart contract controls the movement of that new currency that you've created. So Ethereum is affectionately known as blockchain 2.0. And then blockchain 3.0 is the hope, the future, that all of these tokens can come together, not only on the Ethereum platform, but other platforms that also exist that allow you to create tokens, that can all merge together in a way that one can transact business in their token of choice seamlessly and not have to think about what's going on between them. And as far as the user goes, it's as if they're just transacting in one currency. So ideally, Bitcoin would be the total embodiment of 3.0. But because Bitcoin is so volatile with respect to every other currency and fiat, it's not quite there yet. We developed this banking system to actually solve some of the problems of 3.0. While banks are out there right now scrambling to create their own currencies, there's a very small chance that any one of them will be the victor in terms of becoming a single currency for the world to use. So what we've done is we've created this platform where banks can transfer value from a client's account directly to the client with their own token. But in a later stage, different
But when
banks
you
with
say
different
their
tokens.
own token, meaning the bank's token or the?
The bank's token, yes. Banks will create their own tokens using the NationPay wallet. So they're very interested in this because then they can transfer value directly to the client also in the same NationPay wallet. Then the client can transact with that by purchasing stuff or remitting those tokens to friends and family. So like when you have $1 in the bank right now, that dollar is sitting there, it's virtual. It's like you trust the bank that it's there, and the bank in turn has a promissory note with you that they agree to pay you $1 at some point in the future, whenever you decide to take that money out. But before you do, you can't do anything with that dollar. So with this system, you'll be able to actually take that promissory note, put it in your wallet, conduct business with it, put that dollar in the economy, that promissory note, which will be called, say, the Citibank token, if that's who you're doing business with. And the bank still has access to that because it's just a promissory note that you're passing around, which we call a token. They're extremely interested in this because they retain what's called the float, which is their ability to lend on that money. At the same time, the money's being utilized in the economy at large. There's a second component to this, which is called a credit account. It allows the bank to issue credit directly without Visa or MasterCard. There'll be no plastic associated with this. It's kind of like using Apple Pay, for example. But Apple Pay wraps Visa and MasterCard, which means the fees are still the same. With this system, the bank extends the credit to you directly, which means the rates can be lower. It also means even though you're dealing with credit, when you pay the merchant, there's no 25-day wait period or 3-day wait period. The merchant has your funds right away. So as soon as you take $10 out of your credit bank account and pay for groceries, it's instant. And the merchants can then use those tokens to buy from wholesalers and replenish their stock immediately.
So this is gonna be tied, so these tokens, when you're gonna do it, the bank this token's gonna be tied to the dollar?
Exactly.
So it's not gonna be
the tokens are tied
it's
to whatever currency,
So
and
it's not
that's an
gonna be
important
like,
point.
I think that's an important point, because
That's
one of the things.
probably one of the most important points. The
Right.
tokens that the banks issue through our wallet are pegged to the unit of currency they do business in. So if the fiat is in the dollar, if it's in the dollar, then it's in the dollar. If it's a bank that we've partnered with in Japan, then it would be in the yen. Ultimately, one can think of banks in many different countries with their own token pegged to many different fiat currencies. Yes?
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but with the promise, what was it again?
Like a promissory note, an IOU.
Yeah, so you're saying that I can give that to somebody, but the dollar stays in the bank, so how does?
Exactly.
I'm getting lost with how it actually is getting.
Well, if it got lost, that's great for the bank, right? But,
No, but she's getting lost.
I'm getting
She can't follow
Well, I'm
you.
giving a promise note to somebody, but the dollar is staying in the bank,
Yes.
so how are they getting paid?
Well, it's interesting. Like right now, the bank has a promissory note to pay you. That relationship exists right now. How much? Give me an example of an account that you don't have a lot of money in that you don't mind disclosing to the class.
Let's say $50.
Okay, yeah,
$50. Okay. Imagine that account. Right now, that bank owes you $50, right? There's an implied relationship there that you don't have to prove unless the bank was going out of business, right? But you have faith in that bank that they're gonna keep up their end of the deal.
But it's also, the bank also is federally insured, so when Josette is going to a bank, she'll go to Citibank. One of the reasons she has trust in Citibank is if she doesn't
US
put more.
depositors, FDIC,
Right.
sure.
If she wants that insurance, that if she doesn't, let's say,
If that does
put.
go out of business, though, then the government will come in and step in and make good on it.
Right.
So
That's not what I'm lost
Right,
about.
right. So,
Right.
so now let's say,
Sorry.
you want to give me 5 of those $50, right? Instead of giving me the $5, I just say to you, it's okay. Just give me a piece of paper that says that you owe me $5, and I know you're good for it because that piece of paper has a little bit of magic to it. That piece of paper shows me that you really do have at least $5 in that account, and that piece of paper actually locks it.
So that's
So
the
then I
token.
take that piece of paper and they'll give it to me.
Well, you gave it to me. I'm the merchant. I'm the owner of the grocery store. You just took a loaf of bread from me. And gave me that little piece of paper.
But that piece of paper also says, okay, yeah, you actually do have this
You actually
money,
do have the
and I will
$5 in it.
be.
And the fact that you transferred it to me locks it. You can't get it out of the bank now. So now, like, we take double the right? You know, take that piece of paper and let's cut it into a circle, and we'll call it a token now. Put the number 5 on it. Now it's a $5 token. And now let's add another component to it. Instead of it being a real piece of paper, it's actually you're just in your phone wallet, and you just typed a couple numbers, and I scanned the QR code, and pretty cool, right?
And that, like, will eliminate, like, paper money then in the end, or not really?
Well, yeah, ultimately, this could actually be what Bitcoin can't do right now. And I'll tell you why that is a little bit later, or maybe right now. Certain things have to happen for that to be the case. I believe in the end, after 10 or 15 years, Bitcoin will be the winner. And I want it to be, you know. Terrific, that's what we need. We need one world currency where all of the goods and services in this world are actually priced in that currency. But that can't happen until the market cap of that currency is many trillions of dollars. And people start to have that mindset. Things are not priced in Bitcoin right now. And if they are, it's for a temporary period for a transaction that's going to happen now, and then people are using calculators and
And now the fluctuation is just so high. That's why even credit card companies are staying away with the credit card, because if I'm thinking about that float of 25 days, that Bitcoin is gonna be varied so much. It's not like today I buy this shirt for $10 for that 10
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Exactly. So eventually that will change. But, you know, I want it to be a real player in this industry. So when I talk to bank officials, like just the other day I had a meeting with the guy who's number 2 under the CEO of a very large regional bank on the East Coast, probably one of the 3 largest. I can't mention it now. But we're about to do a pilot program with a memorandum of understanding that allows us to introduce this in a very controlled market to a select few clients that represents a small ecosystem, where some of the clients are people like you and some of the clients are owners of stores of the same bank. This will allow the movement of the currency. In order to do our ultimate vision, which is to be like one coin, you have to consider something else. As I said, there are one of the biggest problems is that there are other currencies, not just the dollar, right? And we talk about a world currency, we have to talk about interfacing between several different fiats, you know, so euro, dollar, yen, peso, whatever they are. So to do this, it's easy to think about an example. Think about, say, the Mexican National Bank that's like right on the border of Texas and Mexico, and think about some regional bank in Texas, and think about a few stores along the border that are used to and are familiar with customers coming in who are Spanish and customers coming in who are American, who have dollars in their pocket, some have pesos in their pocket. You know, these are real world examples. While something might just be priced in the dollar, there are stores where things are priced in both the dollar and both the peso. Other examples exist that are not right on the border, like in Costa Rica, where things are priced in many other countries where things are priced in the dollar and their native currency, like the colon in Costa Rica. So people are now in their minds, they already have in their heads, oh, this is going to cost 5 mil colones, it's also going to cost $5, and they know in their head what it's going to cost. People are becoming acclimated psychologically to that. So when you talk about one bank that has the, say, Mexican National Bank token in pesos, and another bank that has like the Texas Bank token in dollars, we have, as part of our network, a means of merging the 2 banks so that there'll be one token between those 2 banks. And now the 30 branches in Mexico and the 40 branches in the United States are now suddenly 70 branches with one currency. And that will happen at a time when the merchants that are part of that ecosystem are pricing things in both. And so now suddenly they'll be pricing things in just that one currency. And this is a means to an end. This is the beginning of one world currency in a way that we think is the most natural way for this to occur. Rather than just suddenly coming on with Bitcoin, we're doing the natural thing, which is to get the money out of the banks in a very logical way. Everyone has their money in the banks. Very few people have their money in Bitcoin. So this can establish the ideals of Satoshi, you know, the fictitious founder of Bitcoin, without coming about it so radically, without excluding the banks. Yes, we're excluding Visa and MasterCard, but we're not excluding the banks. So ultimately, over time, when people are very comfortable with this, all the tokens will be out, and all the dollars will just be representing a loaning mechanism for the banks, but they won't be there. You know, people will just be conducting business. What will ultimately be the end of the banks 20, 30 years down the line, when they've all come into this business in different ways, facilitated through us and other people like us, will be what? Will be when, the credit they're able to extend credit to you directly, so that won't change anytime soon. People always need credit.
So you're basically
But-
reducing that intermediary too. You're
We're
going to be
reducing-
taking away that middleman.
Yes,
So it'll be a
but-
one-to-one.
What I was going to say is employers, for example, will start paying people directly in tokens. That was the point I wanted to make. So there'll be no reason to put your money into the bank first.
As
But
a
the banks will
direct
still be
deposit.
happy because they'll be extending credit directly, like they did in the old days. That was their core business before Visa and MasterCard even came around. So they'll be quite content to continue loaning directly to the customers in terms of tokens, in terms of credit accounts. Credit accounts will still exist, bank accounts will not.
And who is your competitor in this? It seems like a lot of people wanna get into that. All the banks are
Well,
getting into it.
The banks are extremely happy that we're the only people that are not trying to say we're getting rid of the banks, so they're very happy to deal with us. You know, they're extremely ecstatic, like the last words with my last conversation with, one of the regional strategic chief of strategy at the last bank I spoke with was just, you're way ahead of the curve, and this is what this regional bank needs. So our next discussion is, I'll be speaking with the CEO in New York, and within the next 2 weeks, if this all goes well.
And then how
we
far
have
are
a
you allowed,
construction
so when
bank
you're
in
gonna do a
China.
pilot, you have already the software, you have this already done?
Yeah, so we're developing now. It should be about anywhere between 6 to 9 months before we have actually a test program in place. We have a debt consolidator and an escrow company in New York that signed on. The escrow company, actually, for those who don't know, they receive payments from people who have poor credit, and then they make those payments to the creditors. They also, unknown to many people, have the capacity to act as a commercial bank because they have the same rights. They have their money service business, and they have segregated accounts. So now suddenly we offer them the ability to extend credit, not just receive payments from people with poor credit, but actually extend them another credit card when all their credit cards are closed. But we do it in a way that's responsible. It's something that we invented called directed credit, which allows that credit card to only be used, say, at a supermarket that's in that neighborhood. That's also part of the program, so that they're not spending it on liquor, they're not spending it on this or that. It's a controlled program, so these people can get back on their feet, have good credit again, and at the same time, the escrow company becomes in a limited capacity a commercial bank. Then we also have an MOU with the construction bank in China that's pending right now. Soon there'll be news on that. We hope in the next couple of months.
So you wanna work with China on this too?
Which is pretty much unheard of. Like it's pretty much impossible to break into China, but we have that connection. People are
So
excited
maybe
about
some
this.
of our students can help with that, so they can be your.
Yeah, sure. We're looking for developers always and marketing partners, and in your class on Monday, one of the guys in the class said his dad is intimately connected with the head of Parkway Bank, which is 30 banks in Chicago. So we'll be excited to make that connection. And but yeah, front-end developers are people who don't know blockchain at all are fine. I've been teaching so many people blockchain. It's like if you are a React developer, if you know Node, JS, and even if you don't.
Well, most of these people are more business than.
On the business side, marketing, connections, ability to attract investors, ability to speak well, just likable people, right? Very easy to be on board in a marketing capacity in the beginning of a great company. It's something that you believe in, then it just goes to that next level. But sure, I'll be happy to talk to you guys about that after.
Yeah, great.
I was hoping not so much to discuss this today. It just ended up that I'm doing
Yeah.
that. 'Cause
But I
that's
think
what
it's
you
an
wanted.
interesting aspect, I think, looking at the banks on it, yeah.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if there's time,
Yeah.
but
Did you wanna, just for a minute, if you wanted?
I could briefly discuss
Yeah.
the other platform just to show
What-
you the parallels and
Okay,
the
so what is that?
possibilities. It's called realsafe.co.
Okay, so everybody can go to it, REAL
SAFE
SAFE.co,
Yep.
right,
We're structuring this the same way. This is, what the other platform is, from a very high level, is a group of nodes, where each node is a bank, right? And each of those banks can easily create their own currency through our system, through the wallet, without any expertise. This is very similar, except that each node is a company with anywhere from 2 to 10 owners, and they each create their own currency. But in this case, the currency is what's called an equity token, where each unit represents an actual share of ownership in the company. And you might say to yourself, well, why do that? But the advantages are numerous. This takes full advantage of blockchain. There are many components to what the advantages of blockchain are, other than being able to transact decentrally and quickly and in a trustless manner. You have the ability to do what's called fractionalization, where micro units can be transacted that wouldn't make sense to do or be possible to do in a world where you have to hire an attorney and have to hire recording agents just to transfer, say, $5 worth of the Empire State Building from you to somebody else, you're just not gonna be able to do that. A system like this, you could. What it means is that you have the power of being listed on the New York Stock Exchange when you're just a small company. You'll suddenly gain that liquidity and that power and the ability to raise money in a way as if you had 10 attorneys working for you. You want to raise $2 million, you only want to open that up to say 5 or 6 of your existing 10 partners, or you want to allow new partners in. You can do that in a controlled way and not have to worry whether all the money was collected or not. Partners trust each other. It all goes through an escrow smart contract in the blockchain, so that if the right amount of money is not raised in the amount of days as allocated in the vote that you specified through the system, then all the monies are returned. Now these monies are collected in Ether, in this case, in this example. So it's being collected in a cryptocurrency. It's being very controlled by the smart contract, which measures how much has been collected, how much has to be returned. Similarly, dividends can be paid. These are things that most people don't think about day to day because they don't own their own company. This is mainly a benefit to the CFO of any company, somebody who has to make those kinds of decisions every day. Like, do we raise money today? How am I going to pay dividends? It's like, oh my God, it's my anniversary today. I don't want to go to the bank and wait online and pay out my 20 partners their dividends this month or this year. What a hassle. It's going to take me all day. So with this system, you just pay it to one account in Ether, and it automatically gets distributed in the correct proportions. And the most important thing about the system is around tax time. Let's say you've grown your company of 500, 600 owners. You can't keep track of that. You need what's called a transfer agent to do that, which is very expensive, and there's a lot of regulation behind it. So with this system, which the state of Delaware has something called the Electronic Ledger Initiative, which I suggest you look at if you're interested in real estate and corporate law, just being business majors and interested in blockchain. You would look at the Delaware Electronic Initiative, which encourages people to use a blockchain ledger for reporting purposes, so that when it comes time to fill out the 1040 at the end of the year and you need to list all the partners, you don't have to wonder who they are or keep track of it. This system will report that for you.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's, yeah.
So, thank you. Any other questions?
Do you guys have, like, for both companies, do you guys have patents on, like?
Yeah, we have patent pending on
On the systems,
the
there's
movement
no
of value transfer on the banking platform. On this one, not quite yet. But we find that the patents actually in this whole industry are kind of moot almost. It's like they're good for investors to think, oh wow, it's really protected. But people in this space, the idea is just getting things out there and working with people and getting it out there. There's so many great ideas, and you can't protect software patents. Like,
It's harder, anyways.
What's that? It's
a
extremely
lot harder. It
difficult.
used to be easier. And do you have patents then, Dimitri? Andre, do you have?
No, not yet.
Yeah, right.
We're talking to patent attorneys, but nothing yet.
Most of them say, don't waste your time, and especially if it's in the public domain. So we had two strategies with this. One is to do the patent pending on some of the core concepts on the banking platform, but mostly, for most of these concepts, the strategy was just getting it out there. So now we put it in the public domain. So now anyone who wants to patent it, aspects that we didn't patent, cannot. The best they could do is buy our company, because they're like, oh, we love this idea. We can't patent it, but you're doing it, but we want to do it.
And
Visa.
Right,
sorry.
and Ken, are you doing these both in succession, or you're
Well,
basically
actually,
doing the banking?
we are
or-
doing them together because there's some similar software. There's some overlap
Okay.
in the core mechanisms, yet they're still very
So
different.
this can be used like for board of directors, and I can pay my board of directors through something like this, the Real Safe as well, no?
You could potentially pay salaries.
Or
through the system
give
as
them
well.
equity, if they wanted it, basically.
That you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is this is the patentable aspect of this system. There's a voting, a centralized core voting system, and which is also known as governance. Almost every blockchain platform has as part of its features what's called governance, where the amount of coins you own represent the amount of votes that you have to vote in the system. It's also a way of getting around the fact that you really should be an equity token, but they say, no, we need this token, it's a utility, it's for voting. But we've tied our governance system into actionable items so that you don't just vote on something, but that vote actually then converts to a templated smart contract which controls what's going to happen next, like raising money, like determining if you propose a vote that you don't want any more than 600 owners ever, or for the next 6 months because of some regulation, or some judicial hearing has concluded that you can't have the shares change hands for some reason until it's concluded. You vote on it, and if the outcome is yes, by majority, then suddenly the tokens cannot change hands at all, or they can't be fractionated into any more than 600 owners. Things like that, things that you could not really do too easily if you did not have your system on a blockchain or something similar.
Okay.
The last thing I'm going to say, and I'll take other
Yeah.
questions if there are, is just always realize, since you're just learning this stuff, that most all this stuff can be done centrally. Like, the decentralized nature of it is not essential. It's essential only for certain things. It's essential if you want to make a trustless relationship. It's essential if you want to get away from influence by governments, things like that. And there's other factors too, but keep in mind that the ultimate, what will win out in this industry are those chains that are not only well-financed, good team members, but take a hybrid approach between centralization and decentralization. And don't go crazy trying to decentralize every little action. That's all. Any questions? Any more questions?
Thank you. All right. So Dimitri, what can I do for you?
It's my turn.
Yeah, your turn. So what would you like to do?
Hello for everybody. My name is Kotov Dmitry. I represent several businesses in Moscow. I'm sorry for my English. I try to do the best I can.
Okay.
So I've got some links. Firstly, I work for crypto consulting. I'm blockchain specialist.
So you want me to go do this?
No, crypto consulting. It's.
Do you want me to go do?
WordCoin.io.
Okay, can I go to it?
Yeah. Please.
We can go to it. So we're going to go to Word. Is that what you want me to go first? Word.
Coin.
One word, right?
.io.
.io. So everybody go to wordcoin.io.
So I specialize in ICO. How if you want to do some crowd sale, it's a new form of crowd sale. It's ICO. It's and I receive my experience with working with people who want to make their own ICO. It's about 3-5 teams per day, and they talk about their project. Most of them don't have any project. They have some business, but they want to earn some money. That's all. So the whole ICO, it's a project. I and my team, we made the first our ICO, and it's a WordCoin. It's a decentralized translation platform. We make about $1 million from this.
You made
And,
$1 million
yeah.
from this to do what?
It was about $900,000. $900,000. It's a translation platform. It's the next link. It's Word.expert.
Okay, let's go to Word.expert now. Okay. Word.
It's like an example. I will talk about.
.expert. Oh, I think. Oh, I did. Okay.
So it's
A decentralized freelance platform.
for translation, SEO, SMM, copywriting, LRM. But now we are focused on translation. It's a huge market, and however, we received only $1 million. We should make only translation platform because we note several caps for different types of work. So it's difficult to.
You want to help him? You can even tell Andre you'll be your translator.
What he's trying to say is that they have, when they did an ICO, They had certain stages, so if we raise this much money,
Yeah.
we're gonna build this. If we raise even more, we're gonna build even more. So
Yeah,
he's
it's a-
explaining that they raised $1 million, so they're gonna build.
Thank you, Andy. It's
Yeah.
like
Thank you.
It's a
That's right.
multiple caps. For
I appreciate it, you know what I mean? We have United Nations here, and that's really, especially in the development we're in now with blockchain, that's what we're gonna talk about, like that one coin, you're gonna say, it's all the world and how we're gonna, so the translation, so Andre, what is he talking about in terms of translation then? You're talking about in what format?
Translation means if you want to do some translation from one text to from one language to other language. So it's that.
So you're gonna be, basically, I come to this.
It's a marketplace for freelancers who.
Oh, for freelancers to do translation. So if I want from Chinese to Russian to English, people come there and then they're gonna be paid in tokens, is that?
Pay is WorldCoin. It's a token of
Okay.
platform. So it's a utility token and it's used.
You have,
like-
and you'll have your own token.
Yeah, it's main idea. So it's let's begin to the interesting thing. It's dev.cryptogodfather.com.
Oh, wow, okay,
So
so folks, this is,
it's
okay,
it's
so
only
this is,
it's only developable
Oh, this
version.
is-
You are the first people who see it.
okay, we're gonna be the first, okay, DEV.CR, what?
V. It's
Right.
not deck. It's
Oh,
dev.
Dev. DEV.CRYPTO God, right? Who doesn't want to be a crypto god?
Godfather.
Right, right. Oh, Godfather. Oh, I thought it was just God, right? So Godfather.com. Everybody got that? Dev.cryptogodfather.com. And what do we got? Did I get it right? Yes? No?
Cry, not cry. Crypto.
Oh, did I have it?
Crypto.
Oh, crypto. No, I
It
got it.
worked. Thank you.
It worked, okay. Crypto Godfather, community of blockchain specialists, startup teams and investor that
Uh,
pays its members.
It's a lot of things in one platform. Firstly, it's good for ICO because you can list your ICO here. You
Uh-huh.
can receive listing and rating for free. It's
Okay,
several
so you-
platforms, several competitors has access to their platform for money.
Mm-hmm.
You can advertise with banner advertising. You can do your ICO. There is a working ICO constructor on this platform. We can go inside and see how does it look inside this constructor.
So where do you want to go?
We should go here.
Here?
I can help.
Yeah. You want to do it? You want to sit down? So basically, you're looking for people to do what, Dimitri?
I'm basically help to the people to make their own ICO. So it's for.
So you're going to help them.
I want all ICO will be on this site, and I propose them with.
And you're going to be like a
with-
services
with
to all
tools-
those people to
with
do
tools for
ISO.
free.
Okay.
You can do your ICO here, export website for free, or website of ICO. You can do contract for free based
You're
on
going to give
Ethereum
you're going to give
blockchain.
services to new ICOs.
Yeah,
Making-
there are services of platform. It's called ICO constructor,
Okay.
and there are services of blockchain specialists, of people who are in a marketplace in which platform. I do it only 2 months. It's not ready at all, but
You wanted to show us that you're basically
there are
gonna-
main.
So that's why you call yourself Crypto Godfather, basically giving services for all the people in the.
for all
the-
community. And
For the whole community. And what are you gonna charge?
Nothing yet. I will pay I will pay for people.
Oh, you're
who-
gonna pay people
I will pay
in the coin?
with token of project. It's like type of mining. If you want to do something in this website, for example, you can make a news in website. You can translate this news into several languages. You will receive a token of project.
Everybody understand that? So to help him with his project, you'll get paid. So if they want to get translated to Chinese, part of your
For
thing.
example, somebody doing use here.
Right.
First of all, let's see the constructor.
Okay.
So it's a big form, a lot of fits, but if you will fill it down, you will understand your project better. It's difficult thing to.
So you get like a little form, right?
Yeah,
What's your
it's
ICO name?
it's a-
What's your end date? Where's your video? You help them kind of construct
Yeah,
by
yeah.
them answering questions in a
Project.
form.
If you answer of all questions,
Right.
you have got a technical техзадание. Это как, Андрей? Техзадание.
Like specification.
Specification for developers. Спасибо. A lot of positions that you need to fill for your ICO website.
So you answer like you answer all your forms, and then you're gonna do the end product for them.
And after that, you can export
And
your
then- and then you
website to your domain, and you will get website for free.
Okay.
Uh,
Everybody understand? You answered the questions, and then you have already the website, and you have. All
If
right.
you want to understand your legal,
Yeah, right. And you put up all the questions that they need
you
to
can
do.
pass the Hobby test here.
Okay.
Main very important thing for each project.
Right,
It's,
right. What's
community.
in Slack and Bitcoin Talk, yeah, okay, got it.
Finance. So
And then
it's,
you ask them the finance questions, yeah, what's your hard cap? Uh-huh.
Crowd sale, you can create contract here.
And then you create page not found.
No, it's
Still working, okay.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Bounty campaigns. I would like to do some features, some tools for each part of ICO project. For example, for bounty, I can give a framework for bounty manager to count and distribute tokens for their work.
So you're gonna save them a lot of money, they don't need as much consultants to set this up.
There are some difficult things like legal opinion, like if it's difficult contract, they need some special blockchain
Right,
specialist.
but they have the beginning, at least they'll have the beginning, they'll have the outline for it.
If you want to begin, it's the best way.
Right.
It's for free.
Right. And then you can give it
and-
to other people, at least you have like a set. Okay, got
So
it.
I would like to explain more. It's about ICO constructor. You have there is a rating inside. So it's completion rating. It's a technical rating. Rating. It's count by itself programmably, and we will get big base of project of ICO project that's happening now with rating. And there are also expertise when real life people of this community rate with ICO. It's very
You don't have a rating system.
yeah, it's rating. It's already made. I'm working on expertise when people who there are two type of experts. It's legal.
Right.
It's
And you'll rate the experts, or you'll have the experts be in your system?
Firstly, I will rate expert, and after that, expert will rate ICOs.
Okay.
I think this part of project will be for money, because expertise I need to pay for experts. I don't. So everything will work with tokens. I've got. I can show you.
Okay, because we're gonna end soon. Maybe we'll, if you can do it, wrap it up like in a minute and then get for me for the students, they can stay with you longer. But what do you want from them? How can they help you? They're mainly business students. Can they help you? And you can see
If,
they're from other countries. We have people that know Spanish, we have people that know French, we have people that know
I will
Chinese.
be happy to see you in this project, and I will pay you. First we stock it, maybe after with real money. I hope it's became really useful. It's only 2 months of work.
2 months, you're
and
just
now,
in the beginning.
And now I understand it's a very huge project, and there are no competitors that they want to mix everything in one platform. There are ratings.
Right.
There are no ICO constructors.
I think
there
the
are
ICO
a lot of ratings.
Do you guys know of any ICO constructors?
Meaning platforms to build your own ICO?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's several.
so you maybe want to talk.
So anyone,
Go ahead.
anyone can do it?
Anyone can
use
do
this
what?
platform to like start your own coin?
That's what he's doing. He's setting that up, right?
You know, they start with their own coin and then they realize how easy it is, and then they say, well, let's build a platform for others. That's like people coming to me now and they say, we want to roll out 8 healthcare ICOs in the next 6 months. Can you do that for us? And I'm like, well, to do that, we might as well just build a platform to do it, right? This is how Cryptonomos started. This is how Token Market started.
You know, token market, it's only listing and rating. That's all. It's not a platform to make your
He wants to
token.
help you almost like
Of
set up
course, I know about
forms,
token
and at the end, you have all
market,
the paperwork.
ICOrating.com,
No,
ICO
but
bench,
Token
but
Market,
it's not the same.
Actually, if you pay them 6% of your ICO, they will actually, when you click the registration button on your instead of on your site, or token structure or token sale or buy now, instead of seeing your own URL there, you will see tokenmarket.net/ICO, which means they themselves do host some ICOs. Yes, they are listing services.
But you need you should have already this ICO to deal with token market. You can't.
You can't just go on there and start creating your ICO. That's true.
No, and that's what he is. He's in the very beginning stage of filling out those forms.
There's okay.
Yeah, maybe we can take this offline right now.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions for Dimitri? So you
So-
can see how.
We will finance good project with our tokens. They can pay for some real important services in this platform and in marketplace with tokens. It's also a good idea.
So you have your own token already, or you're in this in the beginning, you don't have it yet?
For
You're-
this moment, I don't need for crowd sale, I don't need for
Right. token,
I just focused on the project.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
just
want
good.
to earn money now,
Right.
I don't need it, I'm investor, I'm developer, that's
Right,
it. Both.
you don't need the money.
I don't need money for this moment.
Okay.
When I will decide to go to exchanges, I need money because it costs a lot to be in a main, like in Polonix or Bittrex, it's costly, really costly. After, I should make a project.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So can you guys just stay a few minutes, and then I'm gonna end the class formally. We know what to do, right, in terms of a review of getting all your work done before, and then we'll do a review of what you need, okay? And if you want, do you have any cards, you guys, or anything, or you just want them to contact you, or you want to put an email, or how do you want them to contact
People
you?
can reach me at Ken.
Hey, you want to put it, Ken, you want to put it on the board? Yeah, just put it on the board over there. You can put it on.
Is this one more?
Yeah, or here, you can put it up here. Ken, put it here. Put it here. What is it?
Ken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Do you have time Sunday?
Ken at nationk.io.
Okay. Have to be Tuesday.